My name is Charles Malaba. I'm an assistant director in the Department of Health Services, Bulawayo City Council. It deals with inspectorate, that's inspection of shops, cemeteries, which is cemeteries, burials and cremations. And currently we're operating two of those, namely Umvucha and Luveve Cemetery. Then we also have got pest control, as I mentioned earlier, where we deal with pests of public health concern, the mosquitoes, the rodents, etc. Then now solid waste management. This is a section under environmental health. Solid waste management, I have to talk about integrated solid waste management. This is basically the generation of waste. Waste can be generated from various activities, domestic waste or domestic activities which produce domestic waste. Then we go to commercial. These are the shops, business operations which generate waste. Then also we've got commercial waste so from other activities. Then we've got industrial waste from the industrial activities. Then we've got healthcare waste, that is from the health centers, your surgeries, your hospitals, which has to be properly handled. I was talking about generation. Then once generated, before removal from the site of generation, waste has to be properly stored. That is calling for proper refuse receptacles at household level. We find that we encourage people to have bins, keep metal bins or plastic papers or plastic bins, as long as waste is kept properly before collection. Then we've got especially commercial centers where waste generation is at a high volume. We normally provide for bigger bins, which are called skip bins. I think in Bulawayo you've seen some of those bins, especially in the market areas. Then after storage, waste has to be transported. That is the removal from the site or the source for proper disposal at a sanitary landfill. So it calls for proper vehicles to collect that waste, because if it's not proper vehicles, this waste can actually, on the way to the landfill, it can be littering the area as well. So basically you're defeating the whole purpose of trying to manage waste properly. So as City Council, we use compactor trucks which compact waste and is closed. Then I think you have seen we have actually contracted commit truckers. These trucks are open trucks, but we insist on that waste to be packed so that papers cannot be flying all over. So from transportation, we're transporting waste to the central landfill, and in Bulawayo, our central landfill is in Richmond, and we started operating that central landfill in 1994. We're still operating it, though we have got challenges which I will come to later on during my presentation. So after waste has been removed to a landfill there, the activities are supposed to happen to make sure that the disposal is proper. We are supposed to spread that waste daily. We're supposed to confine. We're supposed to compact. We're supposed to cover. Right. So what happens if waste is not properly managed? If waste is not properly managed, and all those stages can cause environmental pollution. Environmental pollution, mainly from solid waste, will be land pollution, whereby you find that people dump refuse at illegal places. You find that, for example, some can even dump waste like rubble in large quantities that land will be hard to use for any purpose once that refuse has not been removed from there. Then you find that also if burning is done accidentally or purposefully, then we find that there will be air pollution from the smoke. Then that is if waste is not properly handled. Then also what happens is the general aesthetics of the environment is affected. You find that if we are looking at from face value, we may just be thinking of papers on the streets, but the bigger picture will be a dirty seat does not, or a dirty area does not give a good impression of the area. In investors, No one will want to come to and invest at a place which is disorderly. As I said, the environmental aesthetics is affected. Find that also what happens at the landfill if we don't compact, if we don't confine waste, we don't cover. There may be smell nuisances from rotting waste. There can also be fires. For example, now we are occasionally experiencing fire outbreaks at the landfill because at the moment we are not properly compacting because of challenges I will mention later on. So you find that attracts smells, attracts nuisances. It also attracts fines from EMA, Environmental Management Agents, because they are charged with ensuring that local authorities or there's no one who carry out activities that affect the environment in a negative way. And the city councils, you find that we get fined. And those fines, unfortunately, city council doesn't have money. City council gets money from residents. It means that money which we're paying fines to EMA is actually coming from residents. And it's unfortunate that as residents, one way or the other, we are found wanting, we are involved in those activities that pollute the environment. So basically it means the cost comes back to us as residents. It's not for Bulawayo County, it's not for employees of private council, but it's for everyone in Bulawayo. We get affected. Then we find that for us to be able to do a proper solid waste management program, we're supposed to have the requirements. We're supposed to have compactor trucks, as I mentioned earlier, for transportation of waste to the sanitary landfill. And ideally in Bulawayo, we're supposed to be having 25 compactor trucks on a daily basis to cover or service the whole city. But currently we have got, at any given time, 9, not more than 10 at any given time. Due to aging fleet, the others have already gone over their lifespan. They can't be repaired, and because of challenges, we can't replace those. The finances are a challenge to buy compactor trucks. For example, a compactor truck is not less than 150,000 US dollars. So it's a lot of money. As a result, we have not been able to replace those compactor trucks which have broken down beyond repair. So that's a challenge, which means we cannot efficiently collect refuse or service the city. Right. Then at the landfill, we're supposed to have a compactor truck, sorry, a compactor, landfill compactor. A landfill compactor, we're supposed to have a bulldozer, we're supposed to have a front-end loader. We're supposed to have tipper trucks, at least 3 of them, which these ones are supposed to carry decomposing gravel, which is used for covering refuse at the end of the day. But at the moment, we've got only 1 tipper truck. The compactor is down, the bulldozer is down, and the front-end loader is down. So those are the challenges. Ideally, as for collection, we're supposed to be servicing residential areas once weekly. We're supposed to be collecting refuse in the CPD and commercial centers on a daily basis because there's high volume generation in those areas. We're supposed also to be collecting waste at least fortnightly from the industry. But the challenge, which are actually we're not unable to do that in some instances. Why? Because of shortage of vehicles, which I talked about. That was going to be possible if we've got those 25 compactor trucks, which I talked about. But the situation is quite sad in this way that we're unable to. And what happens? And if we don't collect, we're faced with residents who are complaining, rightfully so. But the bigger picture is that we know what is supposed to be done, but we're unable to, due to the lack of the equipment which we're supposed to use. At the landfill, I talked about compaction, etc. As a result, there will be fires, smells, which I mentioned, and fines from EMA as well. And also, if the landfill is not properly managed using proper equipment, then we find that there is leachate generation, leachate which can actually contaminate the groundwater. If it contaminates groundwater, there are people around that area who want to drill balls for their usage. And we find that the area which is within the vicinity of the landfill, now the groundwater may not necessarily be safe, and that's disadvantage in what? The residents. The smells, I can tell you that we have got a SEPAP which is on the northern side of the landfill. Because of these fires, we are always receiving complaints. That is Country Park residential area. We are having complaints about fires. The smell especially. So the smells and smoke. All right. And then you find that I've talked about the challenges. What are we doing or strategies to alleviate those challenges? For collection, where we have a shortage of refuse compactor trucks, we contracted out refuse collection, especially in the high density areas, to contractors or community truckers, those people who own trucks. A tender was flighted or is flighted from time to time. Then those who manage to meet the requirements are contracted out for a certain period of time, and the contract runs and is renewable. Or once the contract is over, we re-advertise for tenders. Currently, we've got 43 community truckers that we have contracted out. That is mainly for high density areas. Then that's why we are able to collect that once a week, because of this stopgap measure whereby we are contracting out the service. But all the same, our trucks go there to a certain point to collect from the trucks. They don't take that refuse to the landfill. Our trucks are the ones which are taking the waste to the landfill. One will ask why. Why it will be very difficult to say everyone else just go to the landfill. They will be risking their trucks, which maybe we are not prepared to go that far. But our trucks, obviously, since they are meant to be going to the landfill. So because one will ask, why can't they take the refuse straight to the landfill? All right. Then also, the street sweeping part. We are contracting out the street sweeping to community sweepers, members of the community in groups. They form a group, then we contract that sweeping of density areas, residential areas. But in the CPT, it's council staff who are sweeping the streets. Why we are contracting out that? We're also trying to cut on the staff costs. Because with a contract, we don't have obligation for other things like leave, pays, or medical aid and protective clothing, because the group are expected to provide those on their own, because it's a contract. And then, like I highlighted, if waste is not properly handled, if waste is not properly managed, we are likely to have maybe diseases which are spread by maybe those like rodents and other organisms which breed in refuse. So the obviously with rodents, the obvious disease to think of is bubonic plague. So we find that other than that, waste which is uncollected can also cause fly breeding, which can also be spreading diseases. Other than that, waste which is uncollected can also be placed for breeding for vermin, snakes, and the like. And we find that if waste is not collected during the rainy season, you find that it encourages water stagnation, and once water stagnates, there's also ground for breeding of mosquitoes, which become a nuisance as well to the residents. And also you find that during the rainy season, I think you have seen the streets flooding. In most cases, it's waste which collects in drains. And once waste collects in drains, you find that water is not flowing, and as a result, it easily causes flooding. The streets will be impassable, and in some areas, there are places where prone to flooding. Some houses have been affected, especially there are areas in Kolomane and other areas. And those are things from face value you may not be thinking of, but the bigger picture is that waste, if not properly handled, can cause all those things. I think as residents, we're expected on our part to make sure we properly handle our waste until it's collected by City Council and be disposed of in a sanitary manner. We encourage residents to go that route. I think that what they should realize, if they can go to the landfill, they will realize that there is something they are missing. Otherwise, if there was nothing in waste, those people at the landfill won't be there. They actually chase after the trucks when they come. It means there's something which they can salvage from. So, and there's value in that. So if residents can also see that value in that, they remove that value at source because it's theirs. That pet box is theirs. It's not for someone out there. And as they do that, they find a way of removing. It means waste which is supposed to be finally sent to the landfill, the amount is reduced. And those people, since they take that, the salvage those for sale, the residents can also sell and get a return out of what's rightfully theirs. And waste normally is what can no longer have a use. And there are very few things which don't have a use. If they were such, those people at landfill were not going to be there. But above all, reduction means there will be less waste. There will be no need for that frequent collection by City Council that's saving. Because actually by collecting waste from the residents, we are charging the residents. It's not like on a daily basis, but why you are paying you are paying for your refuse management, for refuse removal. It's a cost to residents. But if there's leak, obviously I believe the charges will also be less, because we're saying we can only collect twice a month, because there won't be much waste which is supposed to be sent to the landfill. Okay, like I said, the contracts, especially for the truckers, we normally give them a contract for 12 months, which means at the end of 12 months, we just signed the current contract, which means it's just 3 months now. So at the end of 12 months, residents should be on the lookout for those tenders, because we don't necessarily renew, but it's a contract which is run to its end, and anyone is eligible to apply. But basically the few requirements I can mention is that the truck is supposed to be, the person who's actually tendering, the truck is supposed to be in his or her own name. The ownership is crucial. And we normally put a minimum size. So we normally say a minimum of 3.5 tons. Why? If we allow you to come with the 1 ton and give you 200 households, what does it mean? Your small truck will have to go 7 times or 10 times to finish the step up. And meanwhile, our truck will be waiting at a station point, because we have to offload your waste from a truck into our truck. So it's delaying everyone. So bigger trucks. Also, there's a maximum. Wouldn't expect a haulage truck to be doing the rounds in the zip-ups. Otherwise, we will threaten children, they run away. All right, so there's also a maximum, which is about 7 tons. We still have got life in our landfill. A landfill is developed or is operated in cells. A landfill will be covering a certain area. We prepare a certain part of the landfill, which is called a cell, where we'll be depositing refuse until it's filled up. Then if there's still room, like in our case, we go to the next point where we end in the city.